What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So, today, this is another opinion piece. This is on Vergil Ortiz potentially fighting Terrence Crawford like he's been calling out. Now, Ortiz just fought last weekend. He ended up stopping Crawford's stablemate, Maurice Hooker, impressively. But he took some shots in that fight, showed some defensive liabilities in that fight. Prior to and after, Ortiz was calling out and called out Terrence Crawford. He's high up in the WBO rankings. He's number 2, I believe, behind Sean Porter, last time I checked. And, Ortiz wants to fight. And he's very young. He's 22. I understand that. But there's been a lot of shit, especially after the fight, that was getting talked about the kid, saying he's not ready for Terrence Crawford. The truth of the matter is this. I don't think anybody's ready for Terrence Crawford. I think Terrence Crawford, once he breaks from top rank and hopefully signs with the PBC, I think we're going to see how good Terrence Crawford really is. And I am a firm believer that Terrence Crawford beats anybody at 147, and he beats them convincingly. Beats them all convincingly, including Errol Spence. So, at the very worst, that's a close fight. But Crawford dominates his opponents. And I know people are going to say, well, Crawford hasn't fought the good opponents. You're right. I got Errol Spence ranked higher than Crawford now. On a pound-for-pound level, I think Crawford's ranked higher than Errol Spence. The reason for that being is because I believe that Crawford has done more over a certain amount of divisions in his career to determine, and is a very avoided fighter. So that adds to it. But yes, in terms of welterweight, Errol Spence has done more. But once these two guys lock horns, I think Terrence Crawford is going to expose Errol Spence Jr. That's my opinion. But at the very worst, when it comes to Crawford and Vergil Ortiz, is the kid ready? Probably not, but what other options does this guy have? That's what I want to know. What other options does Ortiz have? Ortiz we know he's at least on the level of a top 10 welterweight, which is the best division in boxing. I think everybody would agree to that. I think if you throw him in there against most of the guys from numbers maybe 3 or 4 all the way up, he could probably compete with those guys, including Manny Pacquiao. Now, does he beat all of them? Maybe not. Maybe he does. But he's at least talented enough and good enough, and I think that is, that's an opinion, but I think a lot of people would agree with that, is what I'm saying. So, some people were saying, well, he should test himself some more. He's too green. But against who? The PBC controls 147. The top 10 fighters at 147, outside of Vergil Ortiz, if he breaks into the top 10, they are all PBC guys. So who does Ortiz have to choose from to step up to see if he's ready to continue to step up? He doesn't. That's the God's honest truth. And if this kid wants to fight Terrence Crawford, because I also heard stuff, if he loses to Crawford, that might ruin him. Well, it didn't ruin Canelo when he lost to Floyd Mayweather. He was 22, 23 when he fought Mayweather. He got his ass whipped. That doesn't mean Ortiz, with his talent, if you're good enough, you're going to shine no matter what. Eventually, you're going to be on that level. And, Vergil Ortiz, do I think he beats Terrence Crawford? Absolutely not. But I don't think anybody does. But the fact that he wants to fight him and he really doesn't have any other options, hey, I say go for it. Some of these Golden Boy guys have to do this. Ryan Garcia's in a similar situation. Although he has a few more options because DAZN friendly fighters at lightweight. But Ryan Garcia is in a similar situation, and a lot of the Golden Boy fighters in stable are in this situation, depending on their division. they got to say fuck it and step it up and fight somebody really good to, you know, in a makeable fight, because they can't get the really good fighters to fight them because maybe their division is shut down like 147 is. So people need to understand the boxing politics and also look at history. You know, a guy losing at an early age doesn't mean they're done. Maybe they are. Maybe they won't bounce back. But if a guy's good enough, they end up shining through. And like I said, maybe Ortiz would see, you know, a loss to Crawford. Maybe he'd do better than people expected. Maybe he would get his ass thoroughly whipped and it'd be a learning experience. He's so young that I give him props just for calling Crawford out. You know, and Crawford said, hey, I'd expose some stuff about him, and he probably would. But that doesn't mean that he shouldn't fight him. Because like I said, when you have a lack of options, you got to do what you got to do. You know, and I don't think it's a bad move for Ortiz to fight Terrence Crawford, given the options that he has, which he really doesn't have any that are top tier options at 147, and that guys that are going to be willing to fight him. So that's it. That's the opinion on Vergil Ortiz possibly taking on Terrence Crawford for the WBO welterweight title in 2021. Hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.